Fox News. Breaking news.
House Oversight Chairman James Comer just dropped a bombshell on Capitol Hill. He says Congresswoman Ilhan Omar got caught requesting a federal earmark for a project later proven fraudulent and tied to the massive Somali scam in Minnesota. Omar fired back saying Republicans are doing nothing and it's all for TV, but Comer called her delusional and pointed to her massive financial disclosure errors. This is no small claim against a sitting member of Congress. The American taxpayers, they're footing the bill for billions in stolen funds while politicians linked to these networks keep denying and deflecting. When members of Congress push earmarks into crooked projects and their family wealth explodes overnight, it erodes trust in our entire system. Minnesota has become a warning sign of what happens when weak oversight meets activist politics and open borders. Under the Trump administration, federal agencies are finally moving to claw back, control, and protect the vulnerable children and families targeted by these schemes. The stakes are simple. Either we restore real accountability, or these corruption networks just keep growing. And while federal teams crack down on fraud networks, a separate national security front is advancing fast in the critical minerals race. This breaking news tonight on America's critical mineral supply chain. SAGA Metals trading as SAGMF in the U.S. and SAGA in Canada is now emerging as a major story in the race to secure materials tied directly to national defense. In less than 6 months, SAGA has moved with unusual speed. Last week, the company announced a 100% drill success rate across all 57 holes at its radar project, and they finished ahead of schedule. That matters because radar is being positioned as a potential host for strategic metals that America needs to reduce foreign dependence. Check out the in-depth interview with the CEO on this topic I did over the weekend. Investors can review the exclusive briefing linked below, but it's only for Next News viewers. Now, back to the Capitol Hill fraud fight. After this update on securing America's resource independence, new reporting shows over 400 Minnesota DHS whistleblowers accused Tim Walz of systematic retaliation for exposing the fraud early. Meanwhile, fresh arrests tied to nearly $90 million in healthcare scams just hit the state, and RFK Jr. called it the largest autism fraud bust in American history. So the House Oversight Chair James Comer says the Somali rep Ilhan Omar got caught red-handed trying to sneak in a budget earmark for a business that ended up being fraudulent. Subpoena her now, says Eric Doherty. Force her to turn everything over. She's embedded in the fraud. And here is Comer on Fox.
You have not investigated anything. Here's her. Watch.
House Republicans looking into the net worth of you and your husband. Are you cooperating with that investigation and providing the documents?
There's nobody looking into anything. They're just saying those things to get interviews with you guys. There's nothing really happening.
They're saying it's a red flag.
He hasn't investigated anything. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't referred me to anybody. He's just saying that so he can get TV interviews because you guys will only talk to them if they say something about me.
Says you haven't investigated anything, Chairman. It's basically all for attention.
Yeah, she's delusional and she knows better. She's trying to say she made a mistake on her financial disclosure form. No one makes a $30 million mistake on your financial disclosure form, especially if you don't have any assets. You know, if you're Donald Trump or some very wealthy person, 30 million might be a rounding error. But for someone who alleges now she has nothing, that's a pretty big rounding error. And it all stems around two basic things, the problem she has. First of all, she asked for an earmark for a project that was later proven to be a fraudulent project that was involved in that Somali scam up there. And then secondly, she claimed her assets were huge because of this winery that we know has been shut down that, according to rumors and press reports, was defrauding investors.
Yeah, Congressman, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. We'll continue looking into this, as you will.
So Comer is exposing how Omar pushed an earmark for a project that are tied to the Somali scam. Questioned her $30 million asset claims. Public records now show her husband's net worth jumped from $51,000 to over $30 million in a year. The public financial disclosure in black and white, Omar's white husband went from being worth $51,000 in 2023 to now being worth more than $30 million. Not only did Amy Bach, the mastermind behind the Ilhan Omar operation in Minnesota, confirm whistleblowers confirmed whistleblowers that Tim Walz and A.G. Ellison knew about the fraud, but Amy Bach also confirmed that the NYP to the New York Post that the Somali Ilhan Omar was in on their emails and text messages. Over 400 Minnesota DHS employees turned whistleblowers. Here is the recent reporting on that.
Give you the perfect example. How about Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar? In February of this year, she shot down claims that she's actually a millionaire. She wrote, "My salary is $174,000 before taxes. I don't have stock or own a home. And I'm still paying off my student debt. So if you're going to lie on something that is public, maybe try checking my financial statements, and you will see I barely have thousands, let alone millions." Well, people have checked the public records now. Ilhan Omar apparently has a net worth upwards of $30 million, somewhere between $60 and $30 million. And get this, it's because of companies run and owned by her husband, who in 2023 had a net worth of $51,000. In 1 year, that $51,000 grew from $6 to $30 million. 3,500% growth in 1 year. What a good communist. It's always equality for you, elitism for those in power.
So the financial disclosures put Omar's sudden wealth in black and white. While she denied having millions, she's now calling deportation talk over her marriage to her brother a made-up racist lie. Nick Sordor writes, Ilhan Omar is big mad at those calling for her deportation for marrying her brother. Just xenophobic. TMZ DC got the exclusive.
That this is just a made-up lie because you do not investigate someone for 10 years and not come up with anything.
So then why do you think it's still being talked about?
Because these people are disgusting. They believe in weird, creepy things, and that's why they want to believe in this weird.
And
that's all I will say.
No, definitely. Why do you think, I guess, that you're being targeted then? It's
because
like
they're racist, they're xenophobic. I just happen to be Muslim, and I don't think you're allowed to continue from there. But,
okay. Understood.
Yeah, I mean, they're just disgusting, bigoted people, and that's all I gotta say.
All right, thank you.
So Omar dismissing the questions about marrying her brother as bigotry and xenophobia. And Dr. Oz says Minnesota is still refusing to cooperate with federal fraud investigators despite $350 million already withheld. Here he is confirming it at the press briefing earlier today.
Sir. One question for Dr. Oz.
Yes.
Are you satisfied with how the state government here is responding to what you want to see in order to lift those suspensions of the Medicaid reimbursements?
Not yet. If they had satisfied our needs, we would have released the money. So we're still waiting for the state to go through the multiple documents that were initially sent to us as part of our review of the last quarter of last year and the fiscal year. So last quarter of last year and the first quarter of this year to identify the many areas where there's variability. Again, what we look for very specifically, and you would do the same thing, if your normal bill is $100 and then all of a sudden it's $500, someone needs to ask what happened. Sometimes there's a reason for that. But as Secretary Kennedy pointed out, and again, it's an all-of-government approach. So we have Treasury also helping us, looking at numbers. We have OIG and DOJ giving us support. Jake Foster is here, who runs the health group there. They do a lot of heavy lifting together with our CPI unit that Kim Brandt behind me runs to make sure that we are actually looking for all the variability. But we are able to identify enough concerns that it's caused us to defer $350 million to Minnesota. And as you know, we deferred last week with the announcement with the White House Anti-Fraud Task Force with Vice President Vance that we are also deferring $1.34 billion to the state of California for the exact same kinds of problems with the documents that we're seeing.
So Minnesota continues dragging its feet on handing over documents, even as Dr. Oz withholds hundreds of millions more. Investigators report 91% of those charged in the state's fraud case are Somali descent. And of course, the owner of the Leering Center that Nick Shirley exposed, charged with daycare fraud. Ilhan Omar told us that Somalis were actual victims of the massive Minnesota fraud scandal. Turns out 91% of the fraud perpetrators are of Somali descent. Imagine that.
Of the 87 people charged, all but 8 are of Somali descent. And that has added to the spotlight being put specifically on your community. Why do you think this fraud was allowed to get so widespread?
Well, I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis because we are also taxpayers in Minnesota. We also could have benefited from the program and the money that was stolen. And so it's been really frustrating for people to not acknowledge the fact that we're also, as Minnesotans, as taxpayers, really upset and angry about the fraud that has occurred.
Yeah, victims. They're just victims. They're just innocent victims. 91% of the fraud perpetrators charged in Minnesota traced back to the Somali community. At the press conference, Dr. Oz told the remaining fraudsters to run because authorities are coming after them. If you're a fraudster, do not walk away from this press conference. Run. A blunt warning after officials announced 15 arrests tied to nearly $90 million alleged COVID-era healthcare fraud.
And so because COVID caused a lack of oversight and because agencies like mine were gutted in their ability to provide program integrity, we have allowed this monstrous, outrageous increase in spending, which does not benefit anybody, to increase. The 15 arrests today, getting $90 million, is a very important symbol because it's a shot across the bow. And we're all going to say this in our different ways, but I'm telling you, if you're a fraudster, do not walk away from this press conference. Run, because we are coming after you.
We are coming after you. Now, RFK Jr. calls latest bust in Tim Walz state the largest autism fraud in American history. Today's arrests in Tim Walz state represent the largest autism fraud in history. This was organized theft that exploited the most vulnerable children in America.
Today's arrests represent the largest autism fraud bust in American history. This was not a paperwork error. It was not a technical violation. This was organized theft that exploited the most vulnerable children in America. Deceived families, stole taxpayer dollars meant to help children with autism access legitimate care and support. Investigators uncovered brazen schemes that billed taxpayers for non-existent services, fraudulent diagnoses, and fake care, while criminals enrich themselves at public expense. Every fraudulent autism diagnosis steals time, care, and resources from the children for whom this program was denied and who desperately need this care. Families with autistic children already face enormous challenges navigating therapies, specialists, and support systems. Fraud makes those barriers even steeper.
So there you have remarks from RFK Jr. See, the pattern shows how one state became ground zero for organized theft that reached into Congress. When a lawmaker allegedly routes taxpayer dollars towards crooked projects while her family wealth multiplies by thousands of percent, the damage goes beyond dollars. It attacks the legitimacy of government itself. The Trump administration is exposing these networks and demanding real answers where previous leaders just looked the other way. So the message tonight is very clear. America First means cleaning out the rot, no matter who's involved. Ilhan Omar and her allies can keep screaming racism, but the facts keep piling up. If you want more raw updates like this, share this video and drop a comment below answering yes or no. Do you believe Congress should subpoena Ilhan Omar right now? And text the words raw feed to that secret number on the screen. Take a look. You see it right there, 844-840-4963. That's how thousands of patriots are bypassing the algorithm and getting direct messages from me right to their phone. I want to make sure you don't miss out either. And check out the Next News merch shelf below this video. We keep fighting for truth and accountability because our republic depends on it.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this. Share this now.